What happens when someone who has devoted their entire life to darkness suddenly encounters the most powerful light in the universe? Tonight, I'm going to share with you one of the most extraordinary testimonies of spiritual transformation ever captured on camera. A story so profound that it will challenge everything you think you know about the battle between good and evil. This is the remarkable true story of a woman who spent over 20 years as a high-ranking satanic priestess, only to burn all her spellbooks live on camera after encountering Jesus Christ. By the end of this video, you will understand why some divine encounters are so powerful that they leave no room for doubt and no path back to darkness. The woman at the center of this incredible testimony was someone who dabbled in the occult as a teenager. She was a full-fledged high priestess who had dedicated her entire adult life to serving Satan with unwavering devotion. Her days were filled with complex rituals, spell casting, and what she believed to be genuine supernatural power. She had risen through the ranks of organized Satanism, commanding respect within her dark spiritual community and witnessing things that would terrify most people. But power in the kingdom of darkness comes with a price that few truly understand until they re-trapped within its web. The higher she rose in the satanic hierarchy, the more isolated she became from normal human connection. The spells and rituals that once excited her began to feel like chains. The power she thought she possessed slowly revealed itself to be a form of spiritual bondage that was consuming her soul piece by piece. The transformation began not with a dramatic supernatural event, but with something far more dangerous to someone in her position: doubt. For someone who had built her entire identity around absolute certainty in the dark arts, doubt was more threatening than any holy water or cross. It started as a whisper in her mind during meditation, a small voice asking questions she had never allowed herself to consider. What if everything she believed was a lie? What if the power she thought she wielded was actually wielding her? These questions haunted her for months, growing stronger despite her desperate attempts to silence them through more intense rituals and deeper commitment to her satanic practices. But the harder she tried to recommit to darkness, the louder the questions became. It was as if a light was slowly penetrating the carefully constructed walls of her spiritual prison. Then came the night that changed everything. She was alone in her ritual space, surrounded by the spellbooks and artifacts that had defined her spiritual life for 2 decades. She had planned to perform a powerful binding ritual that would silence the doubts once and for all. But as she began to recite the familiar incantations, something unprecedented happened. A presence entered the room that was so overwhelmingly pure and powerful that darkness could not exist in its vicinity. The encounter with Jesus wasn't what most people might expect from Hollywood movies or religious paintings. There was no blinding flash of light or booming voice from heaven. Instead, what she experienced was a love so complete, so unconditional, and so powerful that it instantly dissolved 20 years of spiritual darkness like shadows fleeing from the sunrise. In that moment, she didn't just intellectually understand that Jesus was real. She experienced his reality with every fiber of her being. What happened next shocked even her. Without hesitation, without considering the consequences, she made a decision that would seem impossible to anyone who had experienced what she had just encountered. She gathered every spellbook, every ritual tool, every artifact that had been central to her satanic practice, and she began to destroy them. Not privately, not quietly, but live on camera, broadcasting to the world her complete rejection of everything she had once held sacred. The burning of her spellbooks wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic. She understood that for someone who had been as deeply involved in satanic practices as she had been, there could be no gradual transition. The encounter with Jesus had shown her that light and darkness cannot coexist, and that her commitment to her new faith had to be as complete as her commitment to darkness had been. The flames that consumed her books represented the burning away of 20 years of spiritual bondage. The immediate aftermath was as dramatic as the encounter itself. Within hours, her phone was flooded with calls from former associates in the satanic community. Some were confused, some were angry, and some were genuinely concerned for her mental health. The woman who had been respected as a powerful high priestess was now being called a traitor. She lost not only the income from her occult practice, but also faced severe social and financial consequences. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of her testimony isn't the dramatic nature of her conversion, but what happened in the months that followed. The transformation wasn't just spiritual, it was complete. Former acquaintances reported that she seemed like an entirely different person, not just in her beliefs, but in her demeanor, her energy, and even her physical appearance. The darkness that had once emanated from her presence was replaced by something that could only be described as light. Her new life as a Christian wasn't without challenges. Leaving the occult world, especially at such a high level, comes with consequences that most people never have to consider. There were spiritual attacks, financial struggles, and the difficult process of learning to live in the light after decades in darkness. But through it all, she maintained that the love she had experienced during her encounter with Jesus sustained her through every difficulty. The impact of the testimony extended far beyond her personal transformation. The video of her burning her spell books has been viewed millions of times, inspiring countless others who were involved in occult practices to question their own spiritual paths. She began receiving messages from people around the world who were trapped in similar darkness, asking for guidance on how to break free. Today, her life stands as living proof that no one is too far gone for redemption, no sin too great for forgiveness, and no darkness too deep for God's light to penetrate. Her testimony challenges the comfortable notion that spiritual transformation is always a gradual process, demonstrating instead that sometimes divine intervention is so complete and immediate that it leaves no room for doubt. The burning of those spell books was unjust the end of her old life. It was a declaration of war against the spiritual forces that had held her captive for 2 decades. Every page that turned to ash represented a chain broken, a lie exposed, and a soul set free. The flames were visible, but the true fire was the love of Christ burning away 20 years of deception and replacing it with truth, light, and genuine spiritual power. This testimony stands as one of the most powerful examples of spiritual transformation in our modern era. A reminder that the same Jesus who transformed lives 2,000 years ago is still transforming them today. It's proof that no matter how deep someone has gone into darkness, the light of Christ is always deeper still. If you've been moved by this incredible testimony of transformation, I want to encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever experienced a moment of divine encounter that changed your life? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible testimonies of faith and hit that like button if this story has touched your heart. Remember, no one is ever too far from the reach of God's love. And sometimes the most powerful testimonies come from the most unexpected places.